Hi, everybody. Dear friends, today I want to tell you a very interesting and touching story. Watch till the end and share your feelings and conclusions in the comments. Enjoy the video. Sometimes fate brings two people together in such an incredible way that some stories are even hard to believe. No one ever knows where exactly the two lonely paths will cross, but at one point, either by sheer chance or through higher providence, all the puzzle pieces fall into place to form one big picture, and then there's nothing anyone can do about it. That's exactly how one could describe what happened to a woman named Emmy Abrahamson. The woman was born to a fairly wealthy family and spent all of her childhood in her homeland, Sweden. After finishing high school, she moved to London, where she graduated from university. Her life was perfect. A university degree, a job as an actress in Amsterdam, and by the age of 25 years, she was already the director of an entire theater in Vienna. At first glance, every little detail in her life seemed to be planned out. Every detail except for one. The woman was lonely. Due to her work schedule, touring, and business trips, she was never able to find her soulmate. When all of her friends had long been married and even had kids, Emmy spent her long evenings alone. She didn't lack attention from the opposite sex, but that wasn't it. The year was 2005. Emmy was already 29 years old and her birthday was coming up in just 1 week, but for some reason she wasn't excited about it at all. To take her mind off the sad thought, the woman decided to treat herself to a little vacation and go to Amsterdam. Once, after a busy day, the woman was sitting on a bench, waiting for her friend with whom she had plans for the rest of the evening. She was watching the passerby and the couples in love, and somewhere deep down, she envied them. She was dreary because she had no one to share all her joys and sorrows with. She even made a wish then. After all, her birthday was coming up, and who knows, it might come true. But it was a beautiful moment, but it was suddenly ruined by a poor man. Emmy noticed the homeless man approaching. Usually seeing these people, the woman would run far away. She was terrified of homeless people. With each step, the homeless man was getting closer to Emmy, but she seemed to have been glued to the wooden bench. The homeless man turned out to be a young guy. Almost all of his face was covered with a beard, he was all dirty, and he smelled so bad that you could smell it from several meters. He came closer and asked for the time, even though there was a huge clock hanging in front of the bench. The girl looked at him in bewilderment and immediately answered, 5:30. As Emmy recalls it now, it was something inexplicable. I never made such acquaintances before. Moreover, I always tried to stay as far away as possible from these people, so I still can't explain that day. However, it was the guy's confidence that was the most astounding. After all, there was this great social gap between them, yet he didn't seem embarrassed at all and continued conversations. Since she had the time waiting for her friend, Emmy didn't chase the strange man away, but decided to partake in the dialogue. Little by little, they got into the conversation, and the girl felt very at ease with him. He understood her perfectly, but she was even more drawn to his beautiful brown eyes, which she couldn't stop staring into. It was wild, but she felt very comfortable, and the homeless man couldn't take his eyes off such a beautiful woman. The conversation lasted no longer than 10 minutes when Emmy's friend arrived. All this time, people kept staring weirdly at the couple. Before leaving, Vic, that's what the guy's name was, jokingly made a date with Emmy for the same time in 5 days. The guy's confidence was astounding and impressive. Of course, the woman wasn't planning on coming back for the second meeting, and the homeless man would most likely forget about it. But throughout the next week, she couldn't stop thinking about Vic. After giving it some thought, Emmy decided that she had nothing to lose, and she had a whole day left before going back home. She decided to take a slow walk near the same bench so that she could see from afar whether the homeless man would show up, and to her surprise, the guy was already sitting there waiting for her. Their next meeting was simply great. They talked a lot about life and got to know each other better. Emmy remembers with a smile now how Vic tried to get ready and even cleaned himself up a bit, but his hands and nails were still very dirty. He rode in on a small, almost child's bike and was holding a suitcase, the kind I thought only crazy people had. I later learned that inside it, he had a sleeping bag and a can of beer. That night, the homeless Vic told her that he once traveled through Europe, but he quickly ran out of money and nothing went according to plan. He was from the USA and had no parents. Trying to get by on small jobs, he spent all of his money on alcohol, which he admitted himself. It was his weakness, which he couldn't do anything about, and that's how he ended up on the street. He was living in a park for over a year. Vic understood that he was just a homeless drunk, but having seen Emmy, something inside him changed. He hasn't had a drink since that day. They talked until late in the evening. Vic had an amazing sense of humor, and the woman felt very close with him. At the end of the night, Emmy said that he was going back to Vienna the next day. Not knowing if they would ever meet again, Amy gave Vic her phone number out of politeness and went home. Back in Vienna, the woman kept thinking about him, her kind of a resort romance, but there was Amsterdam, and this was Vienna. The day Emmy turned 30, the phone at her house rang. She reluctantly picked up, expecting to get yet another birthday call, but instead she heard Vic's familiar voice. Her heart skipped a bit. He just said, "Hi, I remember it's your birthday, so I thought I'd congratulate you personally." She expected to hear simple congratulatory words, but the man surprised her, saying that he wanted to come up for a visit. Only then did she realize he was there. To answer her question about how he did it, Vic told her that he took the train. Vic planned on arriving 2 days earlier, but he was detained by police for stealing a chicken from a store. Emmy remembered that day forever. After all, Emmy and Vic have been together ever since. The man moved in with Emmy and immediately began looking for a job. Vic hasn't had any alcohol since the day they met, and in just 1 month he was a completely different person. No way this beautiful man could have been the same homeless guy from the park. Having overcome countless bureaucratic delays, 2 years later, Emmy and Vic got married. At first, the guy worked as an electrician and provided for himself and Emmy. And 6 years later, the couple had twins. The man viewed his growing family as a challenge. He now had to work even harder to support them all. He started a small repairs company. It's been 15 years since then, and the couple is doing great. Their kids know how the parents met, but can't understand the details yet. They both found it funny that their dad used to live on a bench. Emmy later wrote a book called How to Fall in Love with a Man Who Lives in a Bush. After all, she literally found her happiness under a bush. Together, they appeared on British TV, where they told about the book and their love story. As Emmy herself says, "In all these years, I have never once regretted coming to that meeting. We haven't even fought once. He is exactly the kind of husband I dreamed of all my life." We all have our own love stories. We're all tied by an invisible thread to the people we're supposed to be with, and this story is the best proof of that. I guess that's it for today. Let us know what you think about this unusual couple, and don't forget to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and click on the bell to make sure you don't miss out on anything. We'll see you soon.